Welcome back to Friday 13th YouTube channel, Metalheads. Today, you're going to be watching an exclusive interview with Ray Alder from Fates Warning. Now, Ray's about to release his new second album, debut album. Now, Ray's about to release his new solo album called 2, released on Inside Out Records on the 9th of June. This is a follow-up to What the Water Wants, his debut solo album, which is a fantastic album. So, Metalheads, please check it out. I hope you like it. Please leave comments. Please share on social media sites. I'd like to thank Ray for the interview, one of my favourite singers of all time. Thank you, Ray. I'd also like to thank Simon at Inside Out Records. Thanks for watching, Metalheads. Be safe. Thanks for watching. So, congratulations on a fantastic new album.
Thank you very much.
It's absolutely amazing. It's going to be hard for a lot of bands to beat this album because you're one of my favourite singers, along with Devin Graves.
Cool. Thanks.
So I think a lot of bands are going to be struggling in prog metal after this album's released.
Well, I hope the fans like it. That's all I'm worried about, really. I hope they dig it, man.
I'm pretty sure they will. But thank you for doing this interview, Ray. So we're talking to Ray Alder from Fates Warning. We're doing their YouTube channel. So, Ray, I'm going to ask you some warm-up questions very quickly. As a singer, who inspired you to become a singer? Who's your main influences?
I mean, before I really got into like metal, I was like really into Steve Perry. Like that was like I never heard a male sing that way before. You know, it was the high notes, and he had a lot of soul in his voice. But I was always into that kind of soul music growing up. But then my brother started listening to heavy metal, and I got into Judas Priest and everything else. I mean, I would probably, Judas Priest. Rob Halford was probably one of my biggest influences next to Steve Perry.
Yeah. That's cool because he's my favorite singer as well in metal.
Amazing. He still sounds great too.
Yeah. You did a cover of Fate's Judas Priest, didn't you? Saints in Hell. Do you know if Rob's heard it in the band?
No, I don't know. He actually years ago was at a studio in LA and rehearsal studio, and Rob was there with, I think, is it Two? Was that the name of it?
Yeah, the industrial band, yeah.
And bumped into him outside in the parking lot, and he came up and he said, "Hey man, that song Falling Star is fucking brilliant." And I was like, "Fucking hey, really?" Like, how'd you hear that? I don't know. It was funny. But that was the only time I ever spoke with Rob Halford, and I got a compliment out of him, which was pretty amazing. That was a highlight of my career, pretty much.
So, what about other metal singers? Was anybody else that inspired you, like Bruce Dickinson, Jeff Tate?
After that, I mean, I loved John Arch when I was growing up as well. Like, he was one of my favorite singers too. I loved his melodies, and I wasn't really into the whole, fantasy lyrics kind of thing. It wasn't really my thing, but I liked his voice. It was amazing, and his harmonies were great. So yeah, after that, it was funny. Yeah.
So, is anybody in your family musical influence, like singers, guitarists, drummers, or is it just yourself?
My big brother, he still plays in like a cover band now and then. I have a cousin, is Henry Balderrama, who's actually a Tejano music star back in the 70s, 80s, I guess. He's a singer. And I can't even remember his name. We're not close in the family. But there was a guy out of Austin, Texas. What the hell is his name? I can't remember, but he had like a hit kind of song in Texas for a while. A Party Weekend. It's a party weekend. I can't remember his name. Anyway, my distant cousin played bass for him, so he was a bass player in that band. So yeah, I guess somehow in my family it kind of runs around.
Okay, then. So, was you musically trained as a vocalist, or did you just teach yourself?
No, I never. I taught myself, but when we started doing Parallels, I was always, we were working for like 6 months on that album, and I was singing every single day, and I wasn't pitch perfect, nor have I ever been, but I was kind of losing my voice a lot, so I ended up taking some vocal lessons. I can't remember her name, but it's the same teacher, I guess, that James LeBrie went to as well. So I took a few lessons from her. She's an older woman. She was very sweet. I didn't really learn much. It didn't really stick, but yeah, that's the only time we ever had lessons. I probably, I don't know, 5 or 10 lessons or something. I can't remember.
So when you look back at the first three Fates Warning albums prior with John singing, which Fantasy albums, which one's your favourite before you joined the band?
Oh, Awaken the Guardian was my favorite. That was in San Antonio years ago. There was a DJ called they called him the Godfather, Joe Anthony, and he would play everything on the radio. I don't remember how long his show was, a couple hours or something a night, or certain nights, I can't remember. But he would play everything, the things that radio stations didn't normally play. I mean, he was playing Rush and Triumph and Fates Warning, and he would play some local stuff too, which is cool. You know, San Antonio Slayer, Watchtower, stuff like that. Hellstar, I think. And he would play. He played Guardian, Awakening Guardian. It was the first time I ever heard that. I remember being at a friend's house and just hanging out, and I was like, "Wow, what is this, man?" And I was blown away by it. It's just a beautiful song. The acoustics and I don't remember. It was a 12-string. I don't remember, but it was just a beautiful song, and his voice just carried it. It was amazing. So
I'm very surprised that John didn't join Iron Maiden, to be honest. You know, when Bruce left, he could have easily called an audition for him.
Well, I think the reason he left Fates is because he didn't want to tour. So, yeah, I don't think that would have ever happened.
I mean, your first band was Serious, wasn't it? There was like did a couple of albums, but you didn't appear on the albums, and you came into Fates Warning for No Exit in 1988. Well, your vocals on that album were so powerful, so screamy. I love that album. It's one of my favorite Fates Warning albums. How do you compare that? Only looking back at it now, what do you think about it?
I mean, I was a kid, dude. I was a fucking child. I didn't know what I was doing. I'd done live shows with some, you know, with the cover bands I was with in San Antonio, and I did a couple of with this band Roulette, another band. I think we did one demo song. We didn't have any originals, just I think the one. And then with Cyrus, they were all originals. Well, I didn't do many shows with them. I had maybe 3 or 4, I don't remember. And then I got in Fates. So I think my thing then was more just trying to sing high. You know, John was like my hero, and when he left, I remember thinking I would never. Like, I'm not going to listen to that band anymore. They're not going to get a singer, you know, that's going to be as good as him. And then I joined the band. So I was like, okay, fuck. So I just think I sang as high as I possibly could back then, which is a big mistake because it's kind of impossible now to hit those notes. But I guess that happens with most singers. Not all of them, but most of them. So.
Yeah, I remember buying it as an 18-year-old kid. I thought, holy fuck, your vocals are like how does he do it?
Yeah. I mean, that's youth for you, man. You know, just being a kid, shit catches up.
Certainly does. So when you look back at all the Fates Warning albums that you recorded with the band, do you have a particular favorite?
Probably A Pleasant Shade of Grey was probably my favorite. I think the fact that we could do an album length song and then tour with it was pretty incredible. It was a bold idea on Jim's part, and it was a lot of work. I remember I was living in Arizona when we worked on that album. Yeah, I mean, being able to tour with a 51-minute long song, and that was, you know, we toured Europe a few times and America a few times with that. So that was pretty incredible. So I think that's probably one of my favorites, A Pleasant Shade of Grey. It was just, again, a bold move on Jim's part, and a very interesting album, I think.
Yeah, it was like a concept when it split up into certain parts when it was like a concept.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I thought a lot of people would have thought Parallels would have been one of your favorites because that was a really successful album, wasn't it?
No, I have great memories with Parallels. I was living together and everything, but it was just a different time, you know. I mean, it's our biggest selling album ever. It was just, you know, we hit at the right time. I think that's when everything was doing really well. And then Pearl Jam came out, and everything went to shit after that. So
pretty much. I mean,
and the hair bands and everything was hitting as well. So that was then everything just went weird.
I mean, I've seen you guys a couple of times. I saw you on the Dream Theater tour. I think it was the Inside Out tour.
Yeah.
And I saw
Yeah,
you at Dynamo Festival. I met you at the Redemption gig in London.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
a few years ago. I mean, you guys haven't played England for a while, so I just hope you guys cope. I'm hoping everyone's hoping that you're going to be touring for your solo career very soon this year, hopefully.
I would love to. I would really love to. I think it's more up to promoters if they want to take a chance on it or not. But we'll see once the album is out and if there's any interest. And yeah, man, I'd love
So
to.
before we talk about your solo career, people are saying Fates Warning, they're breaking up. Can you just put everyone to rest? You're not breaking up, hopefully. Just take a back burner. Is that
No,
what
I
you're saying?
didn't break up. But I mean, Jim doesn't feel he wants to write any more new music. So I mean, the possibility of touring is still out there. But you know, it's difficult now with Joey and five bands, and Bobby's playing now with George Strait, is one of the biggest country stars in America, and they're doing like 35,000 a night. Um, but he's not like a typical guy who puts out an album and then tours with it. He does shows randomly, so super random. So it's really hard for Bobby to take any time off for us to do a tour. But I mean, we're talking about hopefully doing something next year for the 40th anniversary, like just a few shows here and there, but we'll see. I know it's still up in the air. So,
Yeah. So I hope you play the UK if you do it. But Redemption albums, what's your favourite album that you did with the band before you left? What was your favourite
oh
Redemption
God, I
album?
don't even remember. This is I don't know. We did I don't know. I can't remember how many I did with them. Four albums, I think.
I think you did up to Snow of Judgment Day was I think the last one won it in 2009. Yeah, you did
Yeah.
four albums. You did the first time, but you only guest appearance with Rick, didn't you, on that album?
Yeah. Snowfall was great. Yeah, I guess Snowfall. Yeah, that was a time. It was always cool recording with Nick. We recorded everything at his home studio. So always just record a couple lines and have a glass of scotch and let's do a little more. So that was always fun. Yeah.
Awesome. So I mean, that last album you put out with A to Z, that debut album, that's a fun. That was one of my favorite albums of last year. That and the Lalu album, fantastic progressive albums.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't stop playing it. I still play it every
Great,
day.
great musicians, man. Viv and Jupe are freaking amazing. They're like really great guys. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you'll be doing a new album with those guys very soon. Then I presume you'll be working on material for the next album.
From what I know, everyone's working on music. I've been busy with other things right now, but I'm sure I'll get around to it eventually. Yeah.
Okay, so the last question I'm going to ask you before the solo albums is: there's a band from Greece called Vas Contatinas. Do you know this project?
No.
It's Bob from Firewind. It's got a new band, and it sounds just like Parallels.
Really
Yeah,
cool.
it's absolutely amazing. It's almost like you was going to sing on it. Exactly. I'm gonna have to send you a link so you can check it out. But the band said to me, please ask Ray if you could check out the band they're called Vas Contatinas. They've done two
Okay.
albums, but it's really, really
Okay.
interesting. So your
Okay.
solo albums, you've done two albums. The first album, What the Water Wants, amazing. How long did it
Yeah.
take to record that album?
I don't remember the time actually. It was I don't know if it was that long, 7 or 8 months or something. Um, I had to cut it short. I remember because we were going to start working on the new Fates album, so I had to um, finish it up. And I think there was a one song that was like 70% done, which is actually on this album called Hands of Time. And we just ran out of time. I couldn't do it. But I think probably 7 or 8 months for that one, I think.
Because you hooked up with Tony because you live in Spain now, and Tony is from Lords of Black, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
I
you've got
actually
like
met him through Ronnie Romero, the singer. I went to a show, and funny enough, I think it was DGM that was playing. Yeah, and that's where I met Simone. And I just bumped into Ronnie there. We met and talked, and he's like, "Hey, man, my guitar player loves you guys. He'd love to meet you." So we ended up having some beers, and that's how we met. And Tony was supposed to the original album, the original solo album was the idea was to use tons of different musicians and different guitar players and drummers and bass players, but it turned into a nightmare. Logistically, it was impossible. People's schedules. Some people just said no, and it just became so difficult. So then Tony and the original idea was it was going to be Tony and myself, and then we would get some other guys to play drums and whatever. But then Tony got really busy with Lords of Black, and Mike sent me a text, and he's like, "Hey man, I know you're working on a solo album. Let me know if you want any help, if you want to work together, collaborate." And I said, "Yeah, man, that'd be great." And the music that we worked together on was amazing. I loved his style. I completely love the way Mike plays and the way he thinks musically. So that worked out well. It ended up Mike writing most of the music on that album. And the same with this one, Mike had sent me a lot of demos, and we worked on those for a while, and there was a lot of songs left over, actually. I think he may use some of them for his solo stuff. So keep a lookout for his solo album. I think he's recording it this summer.
Oh, okay.
And with Tony again, Tony is super busy doing his other things. So there was, he had a lot of songs too for this album, but the album itself became too long. It was almost 60 minutes already, almost too much for a CD. So Tony was like, "Let's do another song. Let's do a song." I said, "Dude, it's not gonna fit. It's not, we're not gonna do a double CD." And I had other stuff I wanted to work on too. So, but it is a long album for 9 songs. I forget how much, 54 minutes or 55 minutes already. I mean, that was a problem even for vinyl. So yeah, I like the idea of longer songs, which is why this album is the way it is. I think it's kind of going back to my roots, I guess, with Fates. Longer songs, more complex, a lot of different parts. I think it keeps it more interesting. Personally.
So the first album, do you have any favorite songs? I mean, for me, I've got The Road. I'm considering having that song at my funeral because I think it's a fucking fantastic song.
I hear that all the time. It's
really?
Sad. It's sad, but it's cool, I guess. The Road actually turned out really well. I love that song.
It's from the heart, isn't it? It's really from the heart, that song. You really put your passion and lyrical content into that.
I don't know what the fuck made me think of that. I really don't. And, a lot of people are like, "God, it's so depressing."
I don't think it's depressing. I think it's just telling your story of where you, as a musician, where you've been and what you've done. And it's all in one song. And it works really well for you.
Yeah, it worked out well. Lyric-wise, I mean, I kind of struggled with that one for a while. But, I just, in the end, I just sort of let myself write words that sort of made sense for the music. I think it's very sort of retrospective, mortality that we all face eventually.
I mean, I don't think there's one bad song on that debut album. So do you have any favorite songs off from the first album?
I like them all. I like them all. It's funny, What the Water Wants. The first one was, the version that Mike gave me was really, really proggy, totally different. And I remember having trouble writing melody to that. And I was like, "Dude, I don't know, can you clean it up somehow?" Like, it was way too busy. And whatever, I can't remember. I have the demo somewhere. And he just, did a few things here and there, and it just had that really chunky kind of vibe to it. And I loved it after that. So that's probably one of my favorites. But, and, Crown of Thorns was so different. The fact that the bass line continues through the song and it never changes, but the song changes around that bass line. I thought the idea of that was just fantastic. So that's probably, Crown is probably one of my favorite songs on the album, just because it's so different in that, again, the bass line just continues all the way through. If you ever listen to it, it's the same bass line. It just never changes. It's pretty funny.
Did it sell well for you? Did it sell well for you, Ray, that album as a debut? Was you impressed with the ratings that you got from the press and the way it sold?
Yeah, I was really, really happy, very thankful that it was received so well, especially by press. I mean, I don't know what anyone expected, but I was trying to sort of set myself apart from Fates and do something different, so that just to show that I'm capable of something other than just singing in odd time, which is why the album's all pretty much in 4. But yeah, I was really really happy with the feedback I was getting from that one. So far with this one too, everyone seems pretty positive about it, which is great. I'm happy about that.
I'd give it 5 out of 5. I'd
Cool.
give it 6 out of 5 if I could.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. I mean, I wanted to put the album review online a couple of weeks ago, but the label said just leave it for now because it's not released yet. So,
Okay.
but I've done it.
Cool.
I've pre-done it. Just needs to go online for you.
Right.
So the new album, 2, very dark album. It's very detuned guitar sound. It's very like different from the first album. Was the intention thing to do? Was that intentional?
Yeah, I mean, I'm again, when we did the first one, like I said, I wanted to sort of separate myself from the Fates thing, and with this one, I saw no reason to, continue down that line. I sort of felt like I'd done what I set out to do, and with this one, I wanted the longer songs. I wanted the again more complex, a lot of different changes in the music. I think I thought it would be more interesting for the listener, at least even for me, to challenge myself more to write melodies and lyrics and things. So yeah, and Mike was sending me a bunch of different demos, and like I said, there was some left over. So the ones that I thought fit best for this album are the ones I chose, and Tony as well. Tony had a lot of songs, so there was a lot left over from him. But like I said, we ran out of time, so there was no. Maybe we'll use some of them on another one or something. But yeah, the idea, I wanted it to be heavier, darker, more complex. I think we accomplished that with this album. Yeah.
To me, when I listened to it, it kind of reminded me a little bit of your other project you had, Engine. You kind of agree with me, that kind of like of an Engine vibe.
The Engine was that was in my, I was totally into that sort of that new metal era. I was really into that kind of music, Deftones, not Korn so much, but I like that sound. Deftones definitely was one of my bigger influences when I was doing Engine thing. I just wanted to have a chance to kind of, do something similar. And it doesn't sound anything like Deftones, but yeah, that was a different time for me. Obviously, I think I've grown a lot more as a writer since then. So, but it was cool. Oh, yeah.
So the new album covers it's just got 2 red stripes. Was there a reason for that? The album cover, the artwork?
No, I mean, well, yeah, I mean, the first album was white with blue, and I said, well, fuck, why don't we just make this one black?
I mean, the thing here in the background here, behind me.
Yeah. My wife's artwork. So I said, the first one was white with blue. Why don't we do some black with red? Just kind of mix it up a little bit. But it was a thing with the record company, because they were, the first thing was the title. What are you going to call it? And I said, I think I'm going to call it 2. I just, no, you can't do that. It has to have a title. I said, why? Why does it have to have a title? I said, titles don't sell albums. I don't think so. And so finally they said, okay, that was cool. And then they sent me like a couple of days later, they're like, check this out. And it was the Winery Dogs' new album, 3. And I said, see, I'm a genius. Told you. So anyway, with the album cover, then come to the album cover, like, oh, what are you gonna do with the album cover? So, we have a lot of different artists we can send you. I said, no, I'm gonna work with the same artist, my wife actually. And I said, it's gonna be simple, just black with, with a 2 on it, slash. And they're, no, you can't do that. It has to be this, it has to be that. And I said, dude, album covers don't sell albums. They just don't. It's nice to look at, but so that was another thing. They finally agreed with that. And Century Media and Inside Out have been really cool as far as that. I hope I wasn't too much of a pain in the ass like artist, but that was just my thought on the whole thing. I don't really think album covers sell albums.
No, look at Metallica's album cover. Look how many of that sold.
Yeah.
So. I mean, so how long did it take to record this album? Because you had Simone mix the album. Did you produce the album yourself?
Yeah, produced it myself, but it took a while because it's probably 2 years ago when we started. But I ended up doing some other stuff. I did the A through Z thing, and I wrote or recorded with Glenn McMaster and Derek Shrinian and those guys.
Oh, the Figure of Speechlessness.
Yeah, the Figure of Speechless thing. And Derek just called me one day and asked me if I was interested. And I said, yeah, man, what the hell? This is like, you know, pandemic days. There was shit going on. So the work was nice. So yeah, the solo thing kind of took a back seat for a little while I worked on the other stuff, but eventually got back around to it. And so, I mean, all in all, if you really count the days we worked on it, it was probably again another 7 or 8 months, but it ended up taking around 2 years just to finally
So,
get it finished.
so what sort of press reviews have you been getting so far for this album? Do you know? Has
I
anybody
haven't
said
seen
anything?
any really. I think maybe it's too early. I don't know. I haven't really dug around. I mean, I look at Twitter a lot, but I don't know.
Anyway, what's the record company
Twitter's
say
dead, but
about? Oh, do you see this album then as a progression from the first debut album that you did solo album? I know we know it's darker and it's detuned. What are is there other things that you think that sounds different compared to the first album?
I think that no disrespect to Tony or Mike, but I think the songs are better. I think um, overall the craftsmanship, I guess you could say, is an improvement more than anything. I think it's more intelligent. Again, I think it's more interesting for the listener. It's more interesting for me. I had a lot of fun working on it, but I again, there's that same thing I said. I think the songs are more complex, and I think it's a broader palette than the first album. I
I
think.
mean, when I first heard it, I was thinking like when you said Deftones, I was kind of thinking them sort of bands, a little bit Machine Head, and then classic progressive sound. That's the sort of thing that was going through my head when I first listened to the album, the new album.
Yeah, I mean, in a weird way, it kind of reminds me of like early Queensryche kind of stuff. Just like late '80s, '90s kind of metal, I guess. But sort of a neoclassic kind of sound to me, and a mix with the little modern edge, with the down tuned guitars and everything. So yeah, I hope it's a mix of everything else. I don't know.
Okay, so what songs from the new album do you like then? Because you've also got a bonus track you've done on there, done an acoustic version of the Hollow Shell as an acoustic version.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I like them. I like them all. They're really, really cool songs. I love this Hollow Shell is probably one of my favorites. I figured to me, I thought putting that one out first uh made sense because I feel like that song sort of encompassed the overall sound of the whole album, the feel of it. And I think thought it would be a great example for people to hear what the album would possibly sound like, at least. So, and that was one of the first songs I worked on too. So, just really interesting. It was a really interesting song. That beat that Mike put in the very beginning was just amazing. How it came out of that quiet part. And again, that song sort of reminds me of like old Queensryche, sort of old Warning kind of days,
Best album they did for
or
me.
the hell was the one after that? New
The Empire. No, sorry, it was Rage for Order.
Yeah, Rage. Great album. Yeah. So yeah.
So I mean, you've released two videos at the moment. What's the next video you're going to release?
No, I don't think there will be any more. The budget's gone.
Really?
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So do you have any other
Hey,
songs? Is there any particular songs that you'd like to do as a video if you could?
off the top of my head, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, they're all different. Some more different than others. Waiting for Some Sun was obviously different. It's very different than all the others, which that's why I figured to do the video for that. It just someone said, "Yeah, you're reaching out into the gent sort of vibe," and I was like, "What the hell's gent? I don't know what that is." And I guess it's some new style of music or
Oh
something.
yeah, it's all that really weird sort of shit that's going around at the minute.
I don't know what it is. And I said, "Okay, all right, I guess it's just fucking hard rock song to me." But but I think that's one of the most different songs on the album. And then you have the Tony songs, "Hands of Time" and "Changes." I think are more sort of classic, sort of metal sort of songs, which is different than the others, which is great. And again, I hope that it's interesting enough for everyone
So do you see much of Tony's when you're writing material together? Because you live pretty close together, don't you? I presume.
Yeah, but no, we don't really. When I'm working, I think maybe we saw each other once, but I usually just work alone. It's the same even with Fates stuff. I'm always just by myself and tour in the studio. But now I actually have a home studio, which is nice. Um, no need to go to a studio and throw money away and leave your home and do this. It's much easier to work on your own hours, so to speak. And you can try so many different things without making a fool out of yourself because you're
Yeah.
just alone. You know?
So do you think you'll be touring for this album? Have you spoke about doing a tour? Because I really would like to see you do a tour for these two albums.
I get asked a lot. I would love to. I mean, it's if it were up to me, yeah, of course. But it's not. I think it's more of a, if promoters are willing to do it, maybe a festival would ask me or something. Well, we did the Prague Power in Atlanta, which is
Yeah, I
cool.
saw that. Yeah.
But that was it. That's the only live show I've done with my solo stuff. But I mean, you see it as like everyone says, oh, the projects, it's solo thing. I would like to, continue. If Fates isn't going to write any more music, then I would imagine I would like for this to be my next step and continue doing this. And this next step after that would be do live shows. So hopefully if the album does well enough, we'll be invited to
Well, I wish you all the best with the album. I'm sure it'll do well because like I said, I've got an excellent review anyway. So, I mean, have you ever thought of doing like a DVD or live DVD to promote all your career that you've done, like A to Z and all the other bands?
No, I haven't thought about it. No, I mean, maybe again. I remember hearing from record companies years ago, like people don't buy DVDs anymore. So okay, because everything's on fucking YouTube. So yeah, I don't know.
All right, then, Ray, I'd like to thank you for doing this interview. Keep in touch. Do you have anything to say to the people watching this on YouTube?
Just hopefully, if they enjoy the album, please, go and purchase it, whether it's online or physical product or something, because this is what we do now to make a living, especially not being able to tour like we used to. And as long as the record company sees positive feedback and some sales, and hopefully they'll continue funding my project. And this is the price of a pint and a half. So come on, spend the $12. Get an album. Enjoy.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you for doing the interview. I hope you have a pleasant evening. I hope you're feeling better soon.
Thank you very much.
Ray, you're one of my favorite singers, man. God bless.
Cool.
Keep it up, brother. And you've got my full support all the way.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ray. God bless, man. Bye-bye.
Take care, bye.
Bye. Thank you.